What's up, guys, and welcome to part three of Allow Me to Reintroduce Myself. Today, we're going to be talking about my beautiful wife, Jenny. So,
Yes.
super excited for this episode because, in case you guys didn't know and watch part one, Jen is actually the founder of Break the Cycle.
Stop.
You are. It's the truth.
But it's still a family
Yes, we
thing.
are a family thing, but
Okay.
you are the founder of this whole idea. And I was just wanting to support you and do this with you because why not do it together as a couple, right?
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So, baby, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did this all start? Like, not just Break the Cycle as the company, but like, where did like Jenny now start from?
Ooh, I was a different person before, for sure. All right, so I was born in California for those who don't know, because he mentioned that in the last one because he was introducing me. But I'm from California, but I moved here when I was 5. So, um, yeah, Phoenix is home. So I guess my story would start. I'll just preface with this, and because I feel like it's such a huge part, because I feel like God has always been guiding me this direction. I've always been into health in some sort of way. Like when I was in high school, I would take Jessica out for runs, and like I always wanted to know like what is health, like
Mm-hmm.
what is the basis of health, even to the point where my senior paper was on childhood obesity.
Oh,
So I looked up articles about it and stuff like that.
which has actually doubled since the pandemic, in case y'all didn't know.
Yeah, and then also like my bachelor's degree, my senior project was creating an advancement like on childhood obesity, how to prevent childhood obesity and how to tackle the stuff with like a new invention, or not invention but like a business, because I don't know if anyone knows this, but my degree was like entrepreneurship, which is crazy. I didn't
Yeah,
even think about entrepreneurship at
yeah.
that time. I was just like, well, I just want some sort of business degree, and this was the one that they had online, so that's why I got it. I didn't even, I don't know. And okay, so mine starts with I had my baby at 15, and I had back problems a little bit after. For me, it
Mm-hmm.
started a lot with my self image.
Mm.
So after I had a baby, like the first thing that people would pay attention to was, oh,
Yeah,
you still look good. Like
yeah.
your body looks good. So there's a lot of judgment. I don't think in an intentional way, but it was just constant, especially
Where
like
did you feel most of the pressure from as far as that? Like, because I remember how you looked in high school and she looked good. You know what I'm saying? So, family?
family, and then I feel I had a lot of self-love issues growing up.
Mm.
I remember my friend asking me one time like, what do you like about yourself, like out of like how I looked? And I remember I could not think of a thing. I
Mm.
didn't like anything about myself.
Wow.
So it was really a self-love journey.
And where did you think that came from?
I think childhood, I had an interesting childhood. I had, like there was a lot of domestic violence, like um and there was a lot of things that happened when I was younger that what I felt my value, or I don't know if my value, but it was about looks. It
Mm.
was always about looks. It was always about um how I was growing up, like on my body,
Mm.
not just like me, how I look in my face or anything like that, or like what I brought to the table, but it was always about my body.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I never felt worthy to the view of the world,
Oh, wow.
I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna cry. But
No,
there's a
yeah.
lot of topics in there that I did not mention right now, and I think we'll mention them later on. And I've talked about this on my Instagram before,
Yeah.
um, because those definitely require a little bit more time. But so yeah, I had my son, and I can tell you this: like after I had my son, and then we started dating when he was like 4.
Yeah.
I had a lot of still self love issues. I was in a toxic relationship. I was still going to college. I was like that busy, like get this done, go to school, like all of that good stuff. I was going to school from 6 in the morning till like I think like 1, 2 o'clock, because I would go into work at 3 o'clock, And I had a job at school too.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get off at 9. So I always thought putting work in front and getting all the things done was important. So I would
Yeah.
drown myself in things that the world would see as me being successful.
I see.
Working, hustling, all of
Yeah.
that. No time to work on myself. Although
Yeah.
I did want to. Like I started running. I would like join the gym, but like
Yeah, I
fall off.
remember like when we were talking, like you would go to the gym and work out a little bit. But what would you say was like, after that, like what made you like jump into who you are today? Like what was the
The
pivoting point? Like
my
your
back migraines.
Yeah.
I had like 26 migraines in a month. I'd go to the ER. You'd take me to the ER, the urgent care. Um, I was used to shots. I was only 24 years old with my 2 kids, with my marriage, and I was like, we have such a good life. We're married, all of that. Like we have our friends. We go out, like we're vacationing. But something in me just like always felt kind of like void, I guess.
You
There was
still felt
always
something
something
empty,
like,
right?
yeah. You would see me where I would have crying spells,
Yeah, yeah.
like
I remember that.
anxiety spells. Like I would have anxiety spells, and like the anxiety would just get me. Like it would hit me to the core. It would almost create like an argument between me and him, because I don't think he like fully understood just where I was emotionally, and how it shook me when I had any sort of situation happen, and it caused anxiety on me.
Yeah.
So
And I didn't know how to communicate with her and deal with that either, so it just created this whole
it was
loophole of
fragile.
fighting. Yeah, very fragile.
And we
I
were like
remember
only
that.
5 years, 4 years
Yeah.
married, 3 years. So we're just learning too. And we're so young. And so like that happened. And then I remember my back started giving me problems, like real problems. It wasn't just like, oh, I have like a little backache. It was like I could not lift up my foot off the ground, like even an inch. I was working in an office where most people were a lot older than I was, like 50s, like 60s, ready for retirement. And I was like the youngest there, 23, 24, 22, whatever. And I remember my back would like hurt. I would like hold my breath when I was getting up from my desk, because we had seated desks. And I remember holding my breath because like it hurt so much just to get up.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wanted to go for a walk, I'd literally like my foot wouldn't go off the ground an inch. And after a point, like I sought like chiropractic care for that. I like sought some help, but nothing seemed to work. So I just surrendered to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went a full year without treating it, without
Yeah.
doing anything to it. I was just dealing with it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like my back ever got better.
Yeah. So then, what happened when you didn't take care of it?
So we moved into our house.
Yeah.
Again, all good things happened. Like we bought our first house. I remember this morning I woke up so good. I went to the grocery shop, all of that good stuff. And I was like, I cleaned the house. I felt so successful because he was at work. So I went to go shower and I put my towel around me like this. And if you're listening to this, it's like I was just putting the towel over my head, kind of to cover the back of my body. And my back tweaked.
Yeah.
And I fell to the ground. And it hurt so much, like instantly. Like it wasn't like gradual, like, oh, it hurt later. No, it hurt instantly that I started yelling like, ah. My sister was the only one that was here. So she came into the restroom. There I am. My body is like naked on the ground. I'm 180 pounds. And my sister's like 130. And she's like trying to pick me up. And she can't. She's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. She could not get me up. And my restroom is not even that far from my bed. But even just trying to get me to my bed was difficult. So she had to bring in an office chair into the restroom, try to pick me up. I had to like, and I was trying to help her. Like, it's not like I was just like dead weight, but it's like I literally, like, my legs went numb, my lower back tweaked. Like it was, I just could not get up. I could not get up. So then finally she got me on the chair, and she's over there struggling probably like, so she got me on the chair, and then she moved me towards the side of my bed, and she laid me down. And she's like, just wait here, call Abraham, blah, blah, blah. So I call Abraham. I'm like, hey, I tweaked my back. I'm fine. Don't worry. Whatever. I'll just wait till you get home. You can take me to the doctor then. I'll set up an appointment,
Yeah.
right? So then he gets home and I'm still like crying. I had not gone to sleep. I was just
Yeah.
crying from the pain. And he had to do the same. Take me on the office chair all the way to the front of the house into the car. And my mom was there for me. And I remember like crying so hard when the nurse told me to like get up. You remember that?
Yeah, I do
Because
remember
you thought
that.
I was like just joking before.
I
No,
really
not
didn't
really.
think,
You didn't think it was
no,
that bad though.
no. I mean,
Like,
I saw you in pain. I remember getting home and you were like crying. So I'm like, yeah, this isn't normal. And you
yeah.
couldn't move. So like,
I think the nurses didn't
yeah,
think
the
it was that
nose,
bad
yeah,
because
the
I got
nurse,
in on the
yeah,
wheelchair, and the
yeah,
nurse was like, "Can you try to get up for me?" And she like helped me. She got in front of me, and I was like, "Ah!" Like I
yeah. I
cried out
remember
a
yelling.
loud like yelp. So I actually stayed overnight. My mom stayed with me for a little bit. She took me in to get the MRI. They had to like flip my body over,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hard for them. So me, I'm here being handled by all of my loved ones, my body.
Yeah.
I can't even help myself. I get home, my entire family is sitting at the dinner table. It almost feels like an intervention, but everyone's like worried. They're like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?"
Yeah.
Like everyone's hugging me. They're like crying. Like it's crazy and I'm just crying cuz I can barely move. They give me like steroids at the hospital, so it helped a little bit. But it was bad.
Yeah.
Like that I think seeing I was devoted to this. Seeing my whole family, like I can still picture it right there at the dinner table and then like not even being able to like take care of my kids, like my family's feeding my kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm 24. This is happening. Like, what am I gonna do? Because they said like surgery is the other option.
Yeah, for real. I remember that. So then after that, like, we brought you home, and then what was the next step after that? Because that's when you really started focusing on your fitness and your health and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
So prior to this, like I remember I would try like fitness protocols and all of that, and I would do paralysis by analysis, like try to get everything right. I couldn't just commit to showing up for myself. So when I did personal training, physical therapy, when they said like, oh, just do physical therapy because the other option is surgery, Abraham was the one who convinced me, just go, just do it. It's covered by your insurance. It's twice. I'm like, it's twice a week. I don't have time. I'm like, it's too much like for me to travel there, blah, 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 every day for an hour. We have dinner, blah, 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 etc. Right.
Hold on. I'm not sure if it's recording anymore.
Yeah, it is.
It's
moving.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll cut that out. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, like so he convinces me to go to physical therapy, and I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I guess I'll be going to physical therapy twice a week. So I work with my job at the time, and they worked really well with me because I was like, I went to a hospital. I'm gonna need to leave earlier on these days, and he let me. So I was very grateful of that.
Yeah.
So,
I remember like I thought we were gonna have to fight like tooth and nail to let you to get you to those appointments, but
it was rough because
yeah,
sometimes it would take me an hour, 2 hours just to get home.
Mm-hmm.
And that started, I would say, like the pinnacle of what I wish everyone would have when they start their journeys is commitment to just time. Not necessarily going to like achieve anything just yet, but the achievement is just to show up.
Yeah.
And I think that's what started that for me. I started to show up twice a week, twice a week, twice a week. And I got into a routine. So then when they let me go from physical therapy, I wasn't like 100% yet.
No, yeah.
I was just better. I was just able to move better. Still, 100 pounds over, 40 pounds overweight. So I was like, we went to Ezra's birthday.
Yeah.
To a zoo up north, and we were walking around and I was tired, and there's things that I can't physically do because of my back. We had booked a trip to Cancun, and I remember we were looking at the zip lining, and it said something like if you have medical problems, and I literally was like, I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do all these fun things. but I signed up anyway.
Yeah,
I
how
was
did
gonna go and like
yeah.
hurt myself.
Yeah, for sure. So what's like one thing that you would say to someone like, that is really struggling with showing up, like, because that's what you just did. It's not like you did anything too crazy,
Hmm.
but you just showed up. So what would you tell someone that is really struggling with that aspect of like their fitness and health? Is like, how do you show up? How did you do that? Like what got you to make that switch? Obviously it was your back problems, but
Yeah.
before you had back problems and you did nothing about it.
Hmm.
So what was it about it this time that really made the difference for you?
It really was just like commitment, like just be there and putting aside like these goals that you have for yourself. Because prior to this, my goal was I need to lose this much weight in this much time,
Hmm.
like very specific, having no background of training,
Yeah.
nutrition, nothing like that, or even like knowing how nutrition affects me. So it's literally just go do that new thing. If it's even 10-15 minutes, get yourself in the environment and make the goal like getting into the routine, not the goal of getting into the routine and going all out and then losing whatever, or whatever goal you have. You can have a goal of gaining muscle mass, all of that, but like don't make that the goal if you don't have a history or a background
Yeah.
in that, or consistency in that. If you do not have consistency in training, like you don't currently strength train every week, you don't like, because that's what I do all the time, like it's just part of my life. If you don't have that type of consistency, just get yourself to show up for yourself. Like
Hmm.
put on the training shoes, put on the fitness clothing. If you go to the gym, go to a gym, it just show up, walk on the treadmill for like 10 minutes with not a goal. You're not trying to like achieve anything just yet. The goal is just to get into a routine. And that's what physical therapy did for me, because afterwards I got a personal trainer,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'm gonna show up to my appointments. Like I had that mindset already. Like
Yep.
I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna show up. And not even just that, because my trainer was only once every other week. And I made it my goal to show up for myself when I was not with my trainer,
Yeah.
which really helped
Yep.
because like 2 weeks later, the pandemic started and the gym
Yeah.
shut down. So I was already like in the routine of showing up.
Hmm.
So then when the pandemic happened, like we chilled for a couple of weeks and I was like, no, like this is not, I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore. I stopped it for a reason. I'm not going to stop because of the pandemic.
Yep.
I'm
Exactly.
not going to do it. So I showed up for myself at home
Hmm.
and I just did the work. I didn't focus. I didn't weigh myself for like 2 months.
Hmm.
I stopped focusing on all those other factors that made me stop before, and just kept showing up. And if you
Yeah.
just keep showing up month after month after month after month, you're gonna get somewhere.
Yeah. So what was like, because you said you didn't weigh yourself, how did that like improve your psychology? Because I know a lot of people think that like they consistently look at the scale and it's like such a dreading thing to do.
Yeah.
So what did that do for you when you didn't look at the scale? Because a lot of people like to do that and they bring themselves down in the process. So how was that something that helped you out?
So like there's this so your nose, it's always in your point of view,
Mm.
but you don't see it because it's always there. So your brain starts to like block it off. So you don't actually see it anymore, even though it's still there. So that's kind of what happens with our journeys is like we get all of these results, like our energy is better,
Hmm.
our sleep is better, maybe our skin is better, which is one benefit that I had was my skin got so much better. um, but we ignore it when we're only focusing on the scale or things like that, like
Hmm.
jeans and all of that. So I think what helped me the most, because before I'd step on the scale 2 days after and I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's not dropping, like what am I doing wrong? Here's the thing. Right now, my body shifts between 7 pounds. Like I have a 7 pound difference on different days, like 2 pounds difference. Like it just shifts from these 7 pounds all the time. And that's normal. But people don't see that. Seven
Hmm.
pounds is a lot, especially if
Hmm.
you're trying to lose like 10 pounds. Like
Yeah.
you have to understand how your body works.
Yeah.
So it's the most mind F to keep looking at the scale. So I think what it helped me do is like to put that away, what really like throws me off and puts me down, and allowed me to keep on working at it regardless of what a number on a scale said.
Mm-hmm.
because at that time that was my biggest struggle.
Yeah.
It's like I did struggle with the scale. I did struggle with commitment. And if I just committed like for other reasons, for like how I felt, how I was parenting, it just made it easier.
Yeah, that's great. I like that
Yeah.
because I remember, well, you kind of like switched from using that scale and you switched to using a new scale, and it's the food scale.
Oh yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that because, macros isn't for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but, like it's a very helpful tool.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit how it was for you because you had counted before you did
Mm-hmm.
all this. So you
Yeah.
kind of jumped into this and you already knew what to do.
Yeah.
But what was different this time? Like,
so I used to do meal plans, and I learned about nutrition overall, like in college when I had to take my biology class. I didn't like biology, so I found a nutrition class where I learned a lot more, and I fell in love with nutrition at that point. And then I was still doing meal plans, but I didn't fully understand what I was doing. Like I would struggle a lot with making the meals, setting up the meal prep, all of that. Like I didn't understand how like a meal put together
was
would be.
composed, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So during that time, during the pandemic, I did have some sort of meal plan, but I started to track macros. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really like go into it knowing what macros were. I was just like, well, I need to start hitting protein. I need to start hitting carbs. I need to start hitting fats. And it was hard at first. I was like, what is this? Like, how am I getting this much protein from this and blah, blah, blah. But the more I used the app, one, I was aware of the things that I ate that weren't the best.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't even taste that good later.
Yeah.
So then it kind of like gave me more proof like, hey, like this isn't the best. So then the more practice I got, the more like I started to know the little quirks of it.
Yeah.
I started to know how to like change my stuff around, understanding like that protein is like literally structure of your body, your hair, skin, nails, muscles, like literally everything in your body is built out of protein. And then carbs and fats are just energy.
Yeah.
And this is one fact that I tell everyone. Did you know that like the energy that you have, like your metabolism, it's not that it like, because that's a trigger word, like people are like, oh, metabolism, kick up your metabolism, but like your metabolism is always working, and it just has to learn how to be efficient based on what you give it. So if it's really slow, what happens is like even your speech starts to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Your eyelids start to like blink even slower.
Yeah.
So I realized I had a slow metabolism because
Yeah.
I had slow speech. My eyelids, like, if someone took a picture of me, like my eyelid would be like still barely closing. Like,
Yeah. I remember, seeing those pictures sometimes. Yeah, that
but
was
it's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
It's things
yeah.
that people don't think about, and even your
Yeah.
energy.
And then, well, because we're talking about like protein and fats and stuff like that. So how liberating was it for you to know like what certain foods do for you? Because not a lot of people know that. So like, once you started diving deep into like, oh, what does this do for me? If this is just energy, fats and carbs, like protein builds everything. So how liberating was it for you to figuring out like, okay, what actually gives me what I want?
Yeah.
So, yeah, talk a little about that.
So liberating, because before I had the mindset of like, these are bad foods, these are good foods, or I have to be low carb, or I have to do this. But I realized that I can just like literally manipulate it to what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I want a piece of chocolate that day, like I include it into my goals, and realizing like I could eat tacos every Friday and still reach my goals. It did not delay me, not one bit.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding like the components of what are tacos. The meat is protein, which I need to have a lot of. Corn tortilla is your carb, and in fact that's the preferred tortilla over the flour tortilla.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. Like, of course, if you buy them elsewhere, they're gonna have all this extra stuff, but like it doesn't have to be so specific. Like I think people think like tracking has to be very like you have to be very specific.
You have to be very strict.
But it's like you just gotta use it for awareness, for learning how to eat intuitively. Like when you feel off, like you're probably not at your energy. When you're extra bloated, like when so it made me notice those types of things. Like if I was extra bloated, I knew that I didn't eat my protein that day.
Yeah, for sure. So then what is like one tip that you would give to someone that is like trying to figure out like, oh well, where do I start with all this? Like what is one thing you could tell someone to do?
I say just start with one meal.
Okay.
Start with one consistent meal. For me, that was breakfast. So I had my shake, and with my shake, just be playful with it. Make it taste good because most protein powders don't taste good. Add in some Greek yogurt or whatever you want, some peanut butter, and like all of those components are things that you have to have every day. Either way, and you can have however much you want. You don't need a meal plan.
Mm-hmm.
You, like if you don't like it very milky, and you like it thicker, you can put less milk. If you like more milk, you can have more milk. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to follow a recipe.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow a recipe. You can create your own recipes. Like I made mashed potatoes the other day, and I had like this much,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't even like because I tracked it and I add recipes, and it was so liberating to be able to be like, oh, I'm eating this much. Like I feel so satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. So how would you say that, you focusing on your fitness and now the nutrition aspect, because the fitness kind of came first,
Yeah.
like working on
Yeah.
the exercising kind of came first and then
Mm-hmm.
the food came second. But how did this help you like jump into the next step? Like because now you've been really focusing on your faith and what you do. So how it's the other two been the stepping stones for this part of your life? Like how would you say it has improved,
Yeah.
yeah, your life in that sense?
My discipline. Because we can devote the time and money on the things that we want to devote it on. And at this time in my life, out of necessity, I decided to devote my time and money on training, on learning nutrition, all of that good stuff. So, like, that's what I chose to learn on my free time instead of scrolling mindlessly on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Because I did have a problem with that. I'd be at
Yeah.
work and I'd be like, TikTok, TikTok. Like,
Yeah,
I'd be
people don't
sending
realize.
TikToks all day to my friends. And
Yeah, we don't realize how like addicting that stuff is. It's like very like immediate, like
immediate
satisfaction. Yeah,
gratification.
yeah.
And so it taught me a lot about discipline because I would have to purposely like put away my phone, put it off to the side. I would have to purposely make time for my workouts every afternoon. If Ezra was with me, then I knew how to like maneuver and make it work with him there with me. Like I put myself in the mindset of no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sit there and I would plan my day out. And even though I maybe like in the beginning I wanted something, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna eat it and I'm just gonna track it and I'm just gonna see. And that helped a lot with like the bad mindset around bad food.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so that taught me discipline because I decided to put my time and money into these things. So now with God, the discipline that I have, it comes so easy. And when I know that he's calling me to be disciplined in other things, even though it's hard and out of my comfort zone, I've already done so much hard things in my life, went through so many hard things in my life, my marriage. I'm like, there's no other better way than with him.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as I let go of, I surrendered my life to him, my business, my marriage, my kids, myself, my everything. Like, I just felt him lift the weight off of me. And I'm like, there's nothing else that I can do. Like, he deserves all of my attention.
Yeah.
All of my
Yeah.
attention. Like, in everything.
Yep. And then when you realize he doesn't really ask for a lot
No.
either, he like tells you to pursue what you pursue, but to put him at the forefront of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, how has that been like one of the biggest things that you've like been able to do? Because everyone talks about surrendering stuff, and they're like, oh, surrender the process, surrender to this, and it's just like, but to what?
There's
Like
still
to
some
what?
control.
There's still some control that you're trying
Yeah.
to like do. Like
Still
you
trying
think
to control
that,
an
yeah.
outcome.
So how has like God helped you in that process, like putting your faith in Him? How has He helped you with that?
Well, before when I would surrender or when I wanted to have a specific outcome for my business and all of that, or even just anything or marriage, it's like I still felt like I was still trying to control things.
Mm-hmm.
With God, I know that I can just surrender. And I know I don't know the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I don't know what he's going to have me do as a result of that.
Yeah.
I know that when I surrendered my business, it could have meant that he was going to put me away from my business forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I had to be okay with that. because a life with him is way better than a life with getting what I want in the world but without him.
Yeah.
Um because when I'm the kind of person that carries the weight of the world on my shoulders,
Yeah.
it shook me to my core, and I realized I was like, I can't put this stuff on my shoulders. I can't put the happiness of others on my shoulders. I can't do all of that. I'm like, I'm going to give it to you, Lord. You can take away my business, and I'm perfectly fine with it, because I know that whatever God has for me is better than anything I could ever like really imagine.
Yeah.
Like anything that I could even make up, because my mind is so limited with what I know about.
Yeah.
And after experiencing like certain things, and I can't think of an example, but like after experiencing specific sort of like experiences, I'm like, there's so, like when I'm finding out new stuff, like there's so much in the world that I don't know about. Like even the stuff that I do know is like a very small percentage.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know all of the possibilities. God knows all of the possibilities. And whether that's like doing something big for the world or even doing something big for my family,
Yeah.
knowing that that's God's plan, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and I think, what's crazy is like one of the things that we get so wrapped up around is like we always see like the end state, like God always reveals like what the vision looks like at the end of the journey, but he never tells you what you're gonna go through like through the journey. So that's always like vague. So that's why you have to take like that leap of faith, and like you were talking about that because you don't know what the process is gonna look like. And you talked about this before when you surrendered, like take my company if this is what you want from me, like so on and so forth. Like you, like God spoke to you and he said like, hey, like you have a podcast, like how about you
yeah,
talk about me?
that's the
Like,
one
yeah.
thing that has been coming up so
Yeah.
much for me,
Yeah,
like my
exactly.
prayers. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I noticed was like he was never not with me. I didn't grow up religious, or I didn't grow up like, we were a Sunday family church or a holiday church, a holiday family. Um and I just never thought I was worthy for God. And when I came closer to God last year, I realized that when I was young, I prayed big prayers, cried emotionally, like seeking God's presence in my life, and I always felt like He wasn't there. But I wanted to believe that He was there. And so when I strayed away in my adult life, I was like, okay, I'm done. Deleted my Bible app, all of that. He showed me that He was still there during those times. And then I had a realization. I'm like, He answered my prayers. Like, I married a man who like loves me to death for me, who tells me I'm beautiful. Like,
I love you, honey.
So that's what I found out. I love you too. So that's what I'm like, He gave me a family, and
I love it.
He's always been there.
Yes, he has.
Even in the times that I purposely like was like, I'm not gonna pursue this anymore, because I didn't know how. I thought I had to go to church. I thought I had to know the Bible. I thought I didn't realize that it was just a relationship with Him, and just speaking to Him and talking to Him, and He is the Father.
Yeah.
He's our Father. He's my Father.
Awesome. I love that, honey. So what are like some finishing things that you can tell someone? Like what are like 3 things that you would tell someone who's gone through what you've gone through, and like what would you say, like 3 things that you would tell to this person that really is worried about taking that next step? Like what would you say to them?
So it always breaks my heart. I've spoken to many women, and it always breaks my heart when they limit themselves based on their experiences, or what they feel like they need to do, or what they feel like they should be doing. I want you to know that you are very, very special the way that you are. You are unique. You have, like, every woman that I talk to, like, there's something about them that just, every single one, like, I can pull out, like, that's your special thing. And they don't see it as much as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with me. I don't see my special, like, unless someone tells me, and I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
So know that no matter how much you tell yourself that you can't, or that it's too much, or whatever it may be, that's just a limitation that the enemy has placed upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the enemy wants you to be comfortable and wants you to be comfortable with comfortable and not take any action for your family or for anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want you spreading good news. He doesn't want you to experience something different. He wants you to be comfortable. So that's one thing. Number two, I want to say it's hard. It's hard. Throw away those goals that you have right now, because you have a goal of like, maybe I want to like get tone, maybe I want to lose weight, maybe like whatever it is, throw that away. And if you don't have experience with something, just be okay with being a newbie. Be okay with, hey, I'm just going to set a goal of just showing up. Like, that's all you need to do. And that, like, when I said break the cycle goes into all parts of your life, that is very true. That's the first step that I would take when I was like, oh, I need to be a better parent. And I told myself, just be better at showing up. Get off your phone, do all of that. When I need to be better at my finances, be better at showing up. Be like, it's literally just starts there. And number three, um, allow God to lead you. Sometimes it's so hard. For example, me, like just my pride and just so much. And I think it's okay because we're human and you're not going to be perfect. And there's people that may have steered you away from God, like people who you think are hypocritical or whatever it is. But just know that God is only, like, when you talk to Him, He's going to change you. He's not going to change anyone else. He's going to change you and whoever goes to Him. And that's all that matters.
Sweet. So one last thing before we finish off. What would you say to all the moms out there?
You guys are Proverbs 31 women. Like, you guys all do so much. Taking your kids to sports, doing, like, I don't think you realize just how much of a superhuman you are and how much of that you can put out into doing something that makes you feel better. You can lead your family. So I think that's the thing. I led my family unintentionally into a different lifestyle. Like, my son had Andy had fatty liver disease. Like, he didn't have it anymore. And it's like I was able to do that with the help of the Lord because He guided me there. But just put it all on God and watch Him create miracles in your life. Like, the problems, the worries that you have, the anxieties that you have with your kids, with your husband, whatever it is, put it on God. Talk to God.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. Well, that wraps up this episode of Break the Cycle podcast and our 3-part series on Allow Us to Reintroduce Ourselves. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate your ears and your eyes, and we'll see you guys on the next one, okay?